So how does the brain change during adulthood? And by adulthood here, I don't mean late adulthood. I mean regular old non-qualified adulthood, about age 25 to about age 65. All right, so what kind of brain changes are we seeing? Well, over time, the brain starts to slow down. You have slower firing neurons, and reaction time gets longer. So you're not as quick to react to things. We do definitely see that any kind of job or activity that requires quick, fast reaction time, that your emerging adults or adolescents, if it's something that they can do, they're the ones to go for. But emerging adults is kind of that peak time where they have really good reaction time. In adulthood, that will slowly get worse. And the brain does not stay completely the same. It does continue to grow and develop in adulthood, not as drastically as during the younger years. But myelination, remember, myelination is the formation of that fatty insulating coating on the axons. That is greatly reduced in some areas, and myelination is associated with more efficient processing, so that might contribute to the whole process. And for a small number of adults, for about 1% of adults, you have significant brain loss before age 65. It's a minority, but if you're in that group, you know, that's certainly noticeable. And when we get to late adulthood, we'll talk about how you start to have more risk for those sorts of changes, particularly if you're in some other groups who develop specific conditions. So we'll talk more about that in late adulthood. Now, another sort of new field of research regarding adulthood brain development or changes is, we used to think that you didn't form any new neurons in adulthood, but now we see that, well, actually, that there are sometimes some areas where that happens. And so we have found that parts of the brain do grow during adulthood. And in the area of the brain called the hippocampus, you may remember that the hippocampus is strongly involved in memory functions. In the hippocampus, new neurons have been observed to settle. And it's particularly in an area called the dentate gyrus, and this is a region that's activated in forming new memories and exploring new places. All right, so when we think of adulthood related changes, we often anticipate deterioration, loss of function. But here's some evidence that at least in this one area having to do with new experiences or new memories, you have some new neurons forming. All right, so next video, we're going to talk a bit about changes in the 5 senses. They all go through some kind of change.